Good evening, gentlemen. I love it. Jimmy shows up for the first time ever on our live stream, and he says, "Hello there." That's an Obi-Wan reference. Star Wars, baby. Star Wars is a big deal in my house, man. I love that. Jimmy, it's good to see you, man. Welcome to the live stream. Glad you're here. Brian, good evening. I see you, buddy. You've been steady, man. You've been making all the live streams. I appreciate you. Doug, you too. Soon going to be the OGs of the live stream. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. I'm glad to see you. Hopefully you're doing well with all the snow we got. Hopefully you're dug out. And hey, Bruce, Black Log, good to see you as well. I guess we got about a foot of snow, maybe 16 inches of snow some places. So yeah, hopefully we're all dug out and we can kind of put that behind us and move forward. I'm glad to see it getting cleared off the roads so we can kind of get to work and stuff safely. But honestly, I am hunkered down. I don't know about you guys. I'm trying not to move too much because, well, a couple reasons, but it's certainly not that safe out there, and I'd rather just hang out at the house. But I have the option to do that, fortunately. I have a seasonal job. I know not everybody has that option. But anyways, hope you guys are doing well. I have a ton of stuff on my mind that I want to go over, but none of it is more important than Baker's Hollow. And folks, if you don't know where Baker's Hollow is, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit for you. This is the Snyder Run area here, right here. Snyder Run boat ramp. You put in, you leave the no wake, go down here just a little ways. And right here on this corner, a lot of you guys would know there's a shallow water buoy sitting right on the corner there. So this is Baker's Hollow. This is what we're going to be talking about tonight, just to kind of get your geography right on the lake. But that's where we're going to be at. So what do you know about Baker's Hollow? What experiences have you had at the famous Baker's Hollow? I'd love to hear about them. Baker's Hollow here a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, became a running joke, if you will. Basically, if anybody asked where you caught a fish, you just told them Baker's Hollow. So everybody was catching everything back at Baker's Hollow. Of course, it was just a joke, but it is a good spot. We've done a lot of fishing back there, and I'm going to work it a little bit. I'm going to look at the map. We're going to break it down a little bit, and I'm going to talk with you guys about how to use that as Baker's Hollow as a tool, as a potential tool to be able to read patterns and kind of see what things are going on, how fish are moving, where they're at, where they might be sitting. And then you can take what you learned at Baker's Hollow and apply it out everywhere else in the area anyways, but out on the lake then. So you're not finding them just at Baker's Hollow. You can take what you learned at Baker's and you can go apply it elsewhere. So that's what we're going to get into here this evening. Before I jump into that, I want to take you guys, because I did so much updating, guys. When you go to, I did a ton of stuff on the website, so I'm trying to bring you guys up to speed with me as I do it. The charters, I've decided what I'm going to do is, the little bit of experience I have with chartering, I've noticed that it's really good in April to focus anyways on lake trout, at least for the very beginning half of April. And it kind of depends on weather and stuff like that. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm basically looking at booking my charters for lake trout through at least the beginning part of April. But April is going to be like lake trout fishing month on my charters. I think that's how I'm going to do it. And then after April passes, I'll switch it over to striped bass. And of course, as the year goes on, I'll change it up, do other things. But if you book an early charter with me, we're going to primarily target lake trout. Unless I find a school striper, we're going to stick with lake trout. And I saw that a lot of you guys are following the affiliate links. Thank you so much for these Okuma cold water reels. And if you haven't looked at them yet, you can just follow the link that's right here on my website. You can just click on that and it'll take you right over to Amazon, and you can look at the reels right here. That's them right there. But like everything that we own, it's all breaking down to some degree. So if you have any issues with this reel, I repair them all the time. Reach out to me and we'll restore it back to close to like new conditions. But just want to make sure you guys knew that was there. I know a lot of you have been buying that lure or that reel, and I am here to help out. And then, of course, the lures are on here as well. And I keep all this stuff updated. You guys can dig through the web page, my website. My business is a business of one employee, and you're looking at him. So I'm the web design guy. I'm the guy who does the live streams. I'm the editor that does all the videography. And I'm the fisherman. At some point, you have to be able to go out on a boat and catch fish. And then, of course, I'm a charter as well. So I'm wearing a lot of hats, if you will, like most business owners do. Hey, Chad, good evening. Welcome to the live stream, man. So I'm wearing a lot of hats, and one of those is also I'm a lure maker. So I'm kind of simple. I keep it nice, simple, and precise. This is exactly the lure that I fish with whenever I take my charters out, and I make it available to you guys. And then just below it is the Raystown Rendezvous. It's happening April 10th. A lot of you have already registered for this, but if you could take just a few minutes and do the registry either during the stream or afterwards, and it's also linked down below this video. Right below, all this stuff is linked down below this video as well. And I felt like I should point out, at the bottom of every page on my website, you'll see this donate link. If you wanted to send the charter, send me a random amount just as like a gift or something to help out with these the events or whatever I have going on, you can just use a donate link there too. Today I spent just a couple minutes on Facebook as well. If you go to my page, you'll notice that right underneath my business heading, you'll see that I updated all the links as well. I noticed that some of those were broken, they weren't working right, so I fixed them. Whatever. It's funny how it can work one day and then the next day it doesn't, but that's how it goes. Mark, good evening. Welcome to live. Welcome to the live. Yeah, so Josh is checking in with me with a text. I don't see him in the chat. Carp fishing. So, gentleman, his name's Josh. He's sending me a message here. He wants to know if I'll touch on carp fishing tonight. He wants to get into it because there's giants. You're right, it is. I'll see what I can come up with for carp fishing. That's interesting. Honestly, I'm a novice as far as carp fishing goes. I'm kind of a novice. Let me think on that. Let me just think on it. All right, cool. So why don't we do this? Why don't we look, bring you guys up to speed again. There's Snyder's. You come out here. Right here is Baker's Hollow. And we're going to zoom in on it a little bit. I'm going to try and keep it in the upper part of the screen so that it's clear, so you guys can see it well. This point right here has a no-wake buoy on it. I'm sorry, not a no-wake, but a shallow water. It's kind of like a danger shallow water buoy. And you guys will stay, it's just a single buoy, and it sticks way out there too. It's way out in the water, a lot further than what you'd be predicting. You know, it looks like it's just out there by itself. But the water between the buoy and the bank is actually really shallow. It's only about 4 or 5 feet deep. So you don't want to run a boat through there on plane unless you're, unless you're into that. Unless you enjoy changing out the lower end unit. But here we are. This is Baker's. This map is linked down below this video, so you don't have to come back to the video specifically to look at this. You can actually use the map that's linked, and you can go and dissect this lake any way you want to as well. Matt and Marcy, good evening. It's good to see you. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's get right into it. Let's look at Baker's Hollow. So, this is what I came up with. I wanted to show you guys how to look at an area on the lake and do kind of like a charter kind of mindset. What we do as charters whenever we're out and we're searching, we kind of have to narrow this lake down so that it's more productive whenever we pick our clients up. And I think it's a similar mindset if you show up and you only have like 2 days to fish, or even just 1 day. That's really tough. But if you've only got 2 days on the water, you'll probably spend the better part of at least half of one of those days just looking around. And if you're not in the habit of doing that, if you just go out and start fishing, I want to try and encourage you to break that habit. Invest real time, burn a little gas, and do a little bit of research and look around. Try to pattern them, and that time that you spend doing that is going to pay off tenfold. So the little bit of time you spend breaking down the water column and learning pattern, where the fish are holding and such, it's going to save you 10 times that much time whenever you're out actually fishing, because fishing is really slow. You move really slow. So what I would say is get whatever electronic you got, whether it's sonar, side scan, down scan, whatever it is, turn it on, turn all your eyes on underwater. And when you go back into these, you go back into Baker's Hollow, what I want you to do is scan where you think the depth is that you think the fish might be holding in. The reason Baker's Hollow is so nice for this is look at these contours. Look how perfect they are. Both sides of it, it just looks like you're going to write like sheet music on this or something. The lines are just absolutely perfect all the way down through. And then, of course, the main run of the current down in the deep part here, it actually has a very gradual gradient going down from 40 feet to about 100 feet down here in the little bowl that's here. So what this does is this is like, think of Baker's Hollow as mapping or pattern study 101. Like, this is the basic level of learning how to use your electronics and actually determine where the fish are holding, what depth they're holding, how they're holding on points and such like that. Baker's Hollow is just so precise. It's just carved out very smoothly and predictably in a way that you and I can get our electronics on, and you can run through this. And if you do it 2 or 3 times, you'll probably have the knack of it. You'll be able to knock it out really fast too. So it won't take too long for you to go through and look at Baker's Hollow before you hit the big water and start searching. So when you come around from this no wake, you can start on the far side down here or right there at the no wake buoy. But all you're going to do is you're going to ride these parallels all the way up. And you can check us in as shallow as you want. And you'll find this is a pretty good spot for bait too. I catch bait back here once in a while. And then you want to cross over and do like a horseshoe pattern. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So you're going to ride down the parallel this way. Turn around back here. This is a nice turnaround spot I always found. Right here. And then come back on those parallels and go along. So, you know, I've talked to you guys before about the tight topography. Whenever you get the topo map lines get really tight together, that indicates a sharp drop off, and fish like that. So what you have here is a whole area with this sharp drop off to where they can hang out in this flat and then come up in here and feed. Or they can hang out in this flat and then come up here along the edge and they can feed. So this is an opportunistic kind of spot. It's easy to read because it's flat. There's a little bit of timber back there, which is actually a good thing depending on the species you're looking for. But what you want to do is use whatever scanning, whatever eyes underwater you got. Just come back here and follow these parallels and turn back around. Now, that's like your first pass. So when you go down and you come back, you either mark some fish or you won't mark some fish, but try to pay attention to where the marks are, and that's like depth, or you can even use waypoints if you got your GPS on. So pay attention to your depth and then its relation to that steep drop off, or any points, or if you see any timber underwater. Just take note of their relation to it. And then the next time you run that horseshoe, what I want you to do is move just a little bit deeper or a little bit shallower, depending on where you started, and do it again. So you're going to invest about an hour, maybe 2 hours back in Baker's Hollow the first time you do this. When you show up, you want to work the whole depth column, if you will. You want to make sure that you've seen the whole span of it, both going in and coming out. So both the eastern bank and the western bank. You want to make sure that you look at both of them. What you're going to find is that you're going to notice a trend. The trend can be something as simple as you keep seeing fish marks at 65 feet of water. Or you'll notice that whenever you ride in 45 feet of water, you see nothing. The reason that's important is because if you get out on the water elsewhere on the lake, you don't want to fish 45 feet of water if you haven't marked any at Baker's Hollow in that depth. However, if you're 65 feet and you're only marking a couple, you mark like 5 fish the whole way back and the whole way back out, just that whole loop, you might run it for 2 hours and you only mark like 5 fish, but every single one of them was at 65 feet. Put that into your mind. Remember that. Use your waypoints. That's going to be your best friend, so you can come back and check them out. If you want to fish for them, you can. I will tell you that I don't think that Baker's Hollow is the best place to go fishing, but I do think it's a simple place to read. All right, Dave, welcome. Good evening. The idea here is to get you guys in there and using your map, using your electronics, and starting to read. And Baker's Hollow is so flat, wide open, and predictable that it's a good place to really work your electronics in a way that you'll understand. Now, I'm telling you to run parallel with the topography. So follow the contour lines as best you can when you go back and whenever you come back and whenever you return. The reason for that is because if you don't, the bottom on your graph is going to go deep and then it's going to come up. So if you were to start scanning and you went back and forth like a serpentine down through here, your depth measurement would go up and down and up and down. Now, that's a good method if you really understand your electronics, but I'm encouraging you guys for the first few times that you guys work Baker's Hollow to stick to the contour. It'll help you really understand your electronics. You'll be able to get them dialed in, and you'll probably start seeing things that you didn't see before. So you can adjust your gain settings or your contrast. But that'll give you a chance to work it out. Now, on the last pass, so before you completely finish here in Baker's Hollow, what I want you to do is come all the way back here to our turnaround point and then go over to the center of the water flow. So right here at the main channel, that's the deepest section, and I want you to go about whatever it is, half the speed you were going. I want you to slow down. And I want you to scan because it's a little deeper, and I want you to pay attention to what you're seeing when you're going along on the way out. So as you're going out, you're going to see a couple marks here and there. You can decide whether they're fish, whether they're logs, if they're trees, things like that. But pay attention to 2 things. Of course, if you mark any fish, you want to mark them on your waypoint. But the trees, if there's any trees growing, I want you to pay attention to the depth of the highest tree that you mark. So if the highest tree you mark is 30 feet underwater, I want you to keep that in your brain. I want you to remember that. You can even mark a waypoint on the treetops whenever you see them. But pay attention to that depth. When you get out here to the no wake buoy or to the danger shallow water buoy, I want you to turn back around and rig all your stuff up. And then I want you to drag them in. So if you've got 3 rods, maybe you're just out there on your John boat, maybe it's just you and you're running 3 rods, or maybe you just have 1 rod. Put out your very best crankbait and you can hold that rod right in your hand if you want to. I used to do this all the time with my John boat. I used to run the lake with 1 rod trolling, and I would carve through those secondary points, back through the coves, And I did a little bit of musky fishing with it, and I had some pretty good fishing experiences. But what you're going to do is you're going to troll back through here, keeping your lures above that 30-foot depth. Have you noticed there's a couple trees underwater at Raystown? This is going to keep you out of them. So what you did is you ran a track all the way down through Baker's Hollow, and you found the tops of the trees, and then you turned around and you're going to drag your lures as deep as you can without being into those trees. Try to keep them like 5 feet up off of the tree that you saw. So as you come back through, what you've done now is you've kept your bait at a safe depth. You've oriented your bait the correct, you gave it the correct orientation for the fish, and I think you guys understand that. But as the water's flowing, the fish, generally speaking, will look into the current. And if you're trolling against them, your bait's going to come by and be gone. It's because they're looking this way, and they would have to turn 180 degrees to go chase it. We don't want to make them do work. So they're looking into the current. Maybe they're just holding their position, and then you come by, your lure comes right up there, and it's easy for them just to kind of shift over to behind them and just follow it and then take it. So we want to give them every opportunity to make this as easy as possible. Baker's Hollow has become kind of a legendary place. I know it was a running joke there for a while, a couple years ago, but the truth is there are fish there. It does hold them. You can catch pretty much everything there. So I've never taken a striper out of Baker's Hollow, but I've taken lake trout and all the other species. No muskie. I never caught a muskie here. That doesn't mean they're not there. It just means this guy hasn't caught one back here. But there's a lot of good fishing to be had there. I remember right here on the point, we were off the point, somewhere around in here, maybe right in this area. We were jigging lake trout up the one day. I remember Brian Briers, Lures Brian, he was with us, and he was with me, and I remember he jigged one up there. It was about this big. So it's just one of the stocked fingerlings, but he jigged one up there. So we had a pretty good time fishing this Baker's Hollow and the surrounding area. But that is what I want you guys to take from Baker's Hollow. How do you work Baker's Hollow? Stay out of the trees and stick to the contour and just map it and try to learn and take note of where you're seeing the fish, what depth you're marking them at. Are they holding in the trees? Are they holding on the banks? Are they staying close to the steep drop-off? Are they up on the flat? You might end up marking fish in 20 feet of water out there, and that'll give you something to think about. When would you mark them in 20 feet of water? As soon as this ice gets off, you're going to have Lakers up all over the shoreline because the water's cool enough they can go up there. So you could go out right after ice out and go back to Baker's Hollow here and find the lake trout all up in 20 feet or less. You might find them all in this blue area right here. And I think I mentioned it, but this mapping program that I'm using for the live stream, you can go just down below this video and click on it and save it to your bookmarks. It's a no-cost mapping program you guys can use to check any body of water you want to. We're just using it for Raystown Lake. If you want to look at other lakes, just zoom out and take it over to your lake. You guys have any questions about Baker's Hollow before I go any further? I have something I want to show you guys a little bit here. But I don't want to bowl you over with stuff either, you know. So I'm slowing down just for a minute. If you have any questions about Baker's Hollow, let me know. All right, cool. I appreciate you guys being here. If you guys are enjoying the stream, do the thumbs up for me. And if you haven't done so already, say hi in the comments so I know you're watching. I see the number fluctuation. I see you guys watching. I know a lot of folks are here. Thank you for stopping in for my live stream. I appreciate that. But, say something in the comments section there. When I used to start these live streams here, last year or whatever, I was doing like a countdown to get everybody involved. So I was doing like 20, and then somebody had to put in 19, some put 18 in, and we'd count it down. And when we got to 0, I would start the stream. And I thought that was a good way to kind of get everybody engaged and stuff. But I didn't do that this year yet. Maybe we'll start doing that. But all that just to say, you are here and you're welcome and you're allowed to talk in the chat. This is your YouTube as well. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you. If you just want to hang out in the wings and just be a bystander and such, that's fine too. Your viewership and your presence is all that's needed. If you have a mile marker you want to look at, if you have a fish species you're curious about, like carp, and I saw that, Josh, yeah. Or if you just have a dock that you're kind of curious of or anything at all like that, you just want to look at the dam for no good reason other than just to look, then just let's say something in the comment. I'm happy to go down there. I don't want to die with any information stuck in my brain. I want to share it all with you, so you just ask away. Whatever's on your mind. All right. I'm going to pull up this map. I used this a little bit yesterday because, I think it's useful. And what I'm going to talk to you guys about is, you can see, I actually took this diagram. I took it from something on Facebook. You guys might have seen this. But I thought it was a really good little simple drawing and illustration for daytime stripers. And so I wanted to use it for our live stream here and talk a little bit about current. And if you guys were here for yesterday's live stream, a little bit of this is going to be kind of beating a dead horse, but, repetition is the mother of mastery, they say. So pay attention a second time. If you didn't take notes yesterday, take notes today. What we're looking at here is just a diagram, but specifically, there's a couple things here that I want you to take note of, and I'm going to point these out because I know striper fishing is something that everybody at Raystown Lake is curious about. So we're going to talk about it just for a minute. I know there's going to be a lot of guys out there trying to catch striper, and they're going to be failing because they ignore some of the most simple, basic stuff with striped bass. Let me just say this before I get into the diagram. Your rigs that you guys are using, you are underpowered for striper. I know folks think you can go out there and fish Raystown Lake with smaller stuff, but striped bass are not a freshwater fish. They are not a Raystown Lake fish. There's a reason they're so powerful, and it's because it's an ocean fish. These striped bass are stocked from an outside source. They bring these guys in. These are Goliaths. They're monsters. They're brutes. And whenever they take a hook, when they take your bait, they run with full steam as hard as they can. And when you think they're tired out like a bass is, they run as if it's like they just realized that you got hooked. So they run a second time, and then oftentimes you're like, okay, all right, I got him. He's tired. He's coming. And he just runs a third time. The thing with striped bass, whenever they get hooked, they believe they are fighting for their life. It is a life and death situation. So they pull as hard and furiously as they can until they can't pull anymore. And that's why the reviving rate on striped bass is so poor. And I'm going to talk about catch release when I finish with this diagram. So your rigs, when you go out there, I want you guys using a minimum of 17 pound down to a hook with a very good knot on it. I'm going to recommend the Palomar knot just because that one's a simple one to learn. A Palomar knot is simple to do, and make sure your hook matches the size of bait. 17 pound minimum. I run 20. Just to give you a heads up, or just give you some kind of basis, something to base this on. All right, so let's look at this diagram I have here. As simple as it is, it has a lot of things to kind of illustrate, to kind of some good points I can make on this. So as I had pointed out with Baker's Hollow, If you were to run through this section, there's really like two things that you want to keep foremost in your mind. If you come into a section of the lake that looks kind of like this and you're striper fishing, two things. The first thing is depth. Notice where all these shaded brown spots are on the map. The artist is trying to tell you that these are the most likely places to be holding bass. So what you're going to notice is what I've been talking to you. You're going to see some pinch points where the contour lines get kind of tight, or even just whenever they get like odd shaped, because that indicates a jutting, like this right here. This juts out. Striped bass are called rockfish for a reason. They have a tendency to favor rocks. And so the depth, you see 15 to 25 feet. I don't run my baits deeper than what you're seeing on here. I would run as far as 25 feet. I don't think I'd go any deeper than that. So I prefer to run my baits with no weight at all. I like them all to be up really shallow, because we're working a lot of shorelines and stuff, and it can get shallow very quickly at Raised Down Lake because the drop-offs are so steep, which means they come up and get shallow very quickly as well. So the depths is what I want you to pay attention to. Make sure your rods are rigged for striper. They got to be strong. And on top of that, whenever you send your lines out, make sure you're at the right depth for striper. You don't have to run them down crazy deep. So let's assume that these shaded areas here are holding striper. Let's just assume they are. How would we fish this diagram we see here? Just checking the comments here. You had one strip off two. Yep, there you go. 200 foot of line. Yeah, you might have won it. Well, depending on what kind of fish it is, though. I mean, if you catch a 40-pound striper, oh my gosh. Sometimes I've done this before with the bigger fish. I've actually turned the boat and gone back and chased them. Usually we don't have to chase fish, and that's kind of a pain because I'll usually have like 8 to 10 rods out, so turning isn't really an option. So I do over rig so that we can muscle them in. It's for that reason right there, Buck. That's what it is. And do I ever use snelled circle hooks for live bait? Not for trolling. But they'll work just fine, if you if you're downlining, you're parked up somewhere. Yeah, absolutely. I like circle hooks because the way they're designed is to go in and they turn and they get in the side of the mouth. You usually don't have many swallowed circle hooks if it's baited and the hook is correctly sized for your quarry. So a bigger circle hook is good. But no, I've used them, but not for trolling. And can I talk about the bay at mile marker 5? Not sure what it's called, but I've caught fish there. All right, yeah, we'll do that, Mark. When I finish this little spiel that I'm going through with this little diagram right here, we'll go look at the bay down by mile marker 5. So how would we fish this area? We got some striper that we assume would be held up on these shaded areas. There's two things that I want you to consider. The first thing was the depth. Make sure that you're fishing in the correct depth, and I'll tell you, err on the side of being shallower. So if you think they need to be 20 feet deep, make them 15. And always run at least 1 or 2 weightless as far out away from the boat as possible. So my boards that I run that are furthest from the boat, I always run them weightless. They're essentially 1 foot underwater. So the bait itself is only about 1 foot underwater because he's just swimming up there and he doesn't go that deep. The board keeps him up. The second thing to consider on here after depth is going to be these little black arrows right here. The water flow. I alluded to this just a minute ago with Baker's Hollow. Fish have a tendency to orient themselves into the current, which means they're looking this way. Raystown Lake is kind of murky, dark, deep water, and it's easy for fish to miss your lure or your live bait because it's difficult for them to hone in on it. They can, absolutely they can, but we want to give them every opportunity possible. If you're coming in the opposite direction, like you're coming head on to them, so he's looking this way and your boat's coming this way, if you do that, your bait will come into his position and then be gone because you guys are going in two different directions. So you're separating, you're creating a gap between yourselves really quickly. However, if he's oriented this way and you're pulling up behind him, what that does is, first of all, it slows down the presentation as far as relative speed to the fish. Your boat will come up and it'll be above him. That fish will have a chance to kind of get behind your lure, follow it, and then bam, he'll grab it up and you got him. Hopefully my little hand wiggling thing showed you some, kind of, that was my illustration. So whenever you're trolling through these areas, what you're going to do is you're going to troll into the current. In this case, I would probably come up here and turn around and come back down. So I would troll up the current, turn right back around and come back down. And then I would go to the opposite side and I would troll up the current and then turn around and come back down the current. The point is, I don't want to do a circle, because if I do a circle, the one side of the shoreline is always getting the opposite presentation that I want. So you want to come up here, turn around and come back. Come up the opposite shoreline, turn around and come back. So you're going to do like a horseshoe pattern, if you can kind of imagine that. Now, yes, so half the time that you're doing this, you're trolling along here, your presentation is going to be opposite from what is desirable. I think you're going to notice, if you follow these simple tips, if you follow this, if you become current conscious, you're going to find that most of your catches came whenever you were going against the current. So you were going into the current just like the fish would. You want to match what the fish's what the fish's position, what the orientation is. That's the idea. So you got two things you want to think about. Make sure you're at the right depth and make sure that you're properly oriented. Here's a homework assignment for you. Think about the striper that you've caught in the past, or whatever fish you've caught in the past. Think about what direction, because we all kind of remember where we caught that fish. Try to recall what direction you were trolling in. And I bet you, more often than not, you were trolling into the current, just like the fish was traveling. Of course, fish they're just going to bite when they're going to bite, too. Any questions about that? You guys understand this is depth, this is current. These are some of the more basic level things, but I'm telling you, it's at Raystown Lake. It's not that it's a difficult fishery necessarily. It's mostly that it's a unique fishery because it is a deep water reservoir. We have our fish, generally speaking, are deeper. They're a little bit more difficult to get to. However, they're still fish. They're going to do fish stuff. I was in the ice hut just the other day, and we were talking a little bit about fish, and I think as fishermen, we give them way too much credit. Like, we make them smarter than what they really are, because, man, they get the best of us, so they must be really intelligent, and I beg to differ. My opinion of the brain of a fish is that they can do two things really well. And that is why they're such an elusive prey for us. They do those two simple things really well. You can imagine what those two things are, huh? Good evening, everyone. Rick, good evening. It's good to see you. Any questions on that? You guys understand current? Do you guys have any feedback? Anything at all? I do appreciate you guys. You're talking in the chat and stuff. I appreciate that. That lets YouTube know that I have something going on that's worth looking for. All right. So, striped bass. we have what's coming up here is the spring bite. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about catch release, because the spring bite for striped bass is the best time that you can catch and release your striped bass. The reason for that is the water's still very cool, and so they're not going to fight as hard because they're still kind of lethargic, and they're just, it's harder for them to move whenever it's really cold. Just like you and I, we get kind of a little bit, slower whenever we're cold. Striped bass are kind of like that too, so they won't fight quite as hard here in the spring, which means you'll bring them to the boat faster and you'll collect them up. And I want to encourage you guys to keep the fish in the net when you take a picture of it, and then do a net release. What I'm encouraging you to do is two things. Of course, release the fish, but number two, don't take it out of the water. The number one metric used that influences mortality rates is whether the fish left the water or not. And believe me, I know it's important to me. It's like for my soul, I got to hold that fish and look in a camera. The problem is when you do that, that fish is in an environment that it was not designed to survive in. This is a deadly situation for that fish the moment we bring it out of the water. So I'm going to encourage you guys. This is going to be good for your soul. I promise it. This spring, whenever you go out, let the first striped bass you catch this spring be the first one that you release. And the bigger, the better. Guys, do this and it's going to feel good in your soul. It's going to make you fish better for the rest of the year, because you know that you let that big girl go back into the water for the future generations. So when you bring that fish in, bring them in as quickly as you can with what your rods, because you're going to be rigged appropriately for it. You bring it in quickly, get it in the net, and then take your pictures while it's in the net. You can hold it. You can even lean it kind of on its side so that you can get a good picture of it. But keep it down in the water so its weight is suspended by and its buoyancy is kind of held and kind of protected, if you will, with the water. It's going to help that fish revive a lot faster. When you take it out of the net, just hold his tail a little bit and keep him upright. And then I don't like the push-pull to revive a striper. I don't like that. Their gills aren't made for that pull. It's a thing, and I don't want to encourage that. What I'm going to tell you to do is a rock method. So just hold his tail and just kind of rock him back and forth a little bit. And what you're going to see is his gill's going to open up a little bit when he rocks down, and it's going to close when it goes up. It's just a little bit. I'm exaggerating a little bit. I'm doing a lot of handshaking stuff tonight. But you guys can imagine that, I would assume. If you're just rocking him just real gentle like that, his gills are going to open up and you're going to help circulate that water, that nice cool water, back into him. And it's a striper, baby. You can't do that very long and he's going to, boom, kick off because he's a fighter. Release some striper this year. What's the magic temperature? If the water gets up to 70 degrees, guys, you need to start keeping those striper. If you're releasing striped bass in 70 degrees or warmer water, you're releasing dead fish. And I know it's going to kick off and swim, but within 2 days, it's dead. They do not survive in warmer waters. If the water's below 70, guys, you can attempt your releases and stuff. The cooler the water, the better. But at 70 degrees, when you release that fish, guys, the mortality rate on them is off the chart. So if you catch a fish in the middle of a striped bass in the middle of summer, it's 80-degree water or something, just keep that fish, put it in the refrigerator, enjoy it, and let that be your harvested fish. But here in the spring, we have this opportunity to do a lot of great fishing and a lot of great release pictures. And let's just handle these fish responsibly, because now we're wise. So all you folks who are seeing this video, whether you're here with me live or you're catching up 6 years from now, you just heard me tell you, this is how it is. If the water's above 70 degrees, that's a dead fish. You need to keep it. Take it home and eat it. It's good meat. If it's below 70, let's release them. Let's get them out there. That's how you handle them, as simply as it can be. That's how you handle them. Any questions about that? Being able to handle a striped bass here in the spring is going to be really important for you, because you're going to be handling a lot of them. This week I got a my affiliate links go through once a month, but they came through this week, and it was kind of encouraging, because I got to receive my affiliate links. So you guys who are following the affiliate links, I got a bunch of products by Rods and Reels. As a matter of fact, let me just take a minute and show that to you. But this week I got my affiliate check, and it was $24. And I know that might not seem like a lot, guys, but I'll tell you what, that's $24 that I wouldn't have had to take my kids out for pizza once or twice, or maybe once, maybe half of once. I'm not sure. Restaurant food, yeah. But the point is, it gave me an opportunity. It's an opportunity, and it's growing. And a few years ago, I did not have that. So I'm really feeling blessed. Thank you guys for following the links. When you do, like with this video, let's say with this ice fishing video that I just put up. I have a new video up. If you guys didn't catch it, I just put it up about an hour ago. It's this one right here. So if you go to this video, what I'm talking about is underneath here in the About section. So if you open this up and you go down here to Fishin, where I zipped right by it. Here we go, Fishin. The Fishin section, like right here at the top, there's a spot here for rods and reels. So you'll open it up and you'll see that this is the ugly stick that I recommend everybody get. This rod coupled with this reel, either one of these, so I have them both linked here just so you can find them easily. There's the older model, the early model, and the new model. Both of these reels will work perfectly. I can repair them both. They're essentially the same thing. But this reel with that rod, guys, that's going to handle anything at Raystown Lake. So because you guys have been following these links below the video, Amazon sends me a little check every month, and it's never much, but it's growing. It used to only be like $2 or $3 or something like that. So it's taking a little time for it to build up speed, but I'm happy to have it. Thank you for checking that out. Appreciate it. It's turning into something, you know. Let's go down and look at mile marker 5. What do you say? Mile marker 5. And what did we say we wanted to do? We want to talk about the bay at mile marker 5. I think you know what you mean. You're talking about back behind Yoakum's here. So what we have, this section of the lake here. If I know most of you guys, you're all familiar with the lake to some degree, but I might be pointing out the generic, if you will, because people will find this much later, you know, a year after this, and I want to make sure they have reference to be able to go out on the lake and make sense of what happened on the live stream, you know. This point right here would be 4, and there's a big blue board, huge board there. It says 4 on it. Right over here, there's one that says 5, and one right here on the opposite side, on the eastern bank, there's one that has 6 on it. The lake is really long, but every mile marker kind of up and down the lake, you can use that for navigating and for communicating, kind of like we're doing right now. But this is the bay. I believe this is what we're talking about here. Mile marker 5. Mile marker 5 is right there. And I just call this behind Yoakum's because there's a Yoakum cemetery right here, which is really cool. You can park your boat back here against the bank. Back here is just like summertime activity. And you can just hike in there. And there's the Yoakum cemetery has a lot of old tombstones and stuff. Super, super cool. I take my kids back here at least once every year. Just we end up there just because it's interesting. So this bay back here that you're curious about, I fish this bay quite often. I do pretty good back here. I don't think it's not the banger spot or anything. But when we're talking striped bass and lake trout, I think this is a great location because you have the opportunity to pull live bait and catch all of that. So yes, I would say in the spring, this would be a great place to come back and try for striped bass and lake trout. This would be good. You can pull live bait or lures, whatever you want to do, but this is a good spot you can definitely check out. Take what you learned at Baker's Hollow and apply it now to this odd-shaped bay behind Yoakum's. This one's a little bit goofy because the parallels are so crazy. I'm telling you, if you troll along this bank and you come over here, you're going to end up being in like 10 feet of water from 40 feet of water so quick, because it looks like you can troll parallel with the bank. It looks like you can come in here. See how deep this is right here? This is like 30 feet right here inside the blue. And if you pull straight along with the bank, you're going to end up in 10 feet of water because it comes up kind of quick over here. So your baits, except for the shallow ones, your baits are going to start hitting the bottom. You might get snagged up. I've had a lot of luck over here pan fishing as well. If you go for bluegill and this whole area would probably be good, but bluegill, crappie, yellow perch, this is a good area for that. You got to learn how to target them, though. The thing about, I think what I've learned over the last couple of years, I think with panfish, is as much fun as everybody thinks, oh, they're easy to catch, until they go out and try to catch them. You know, you catch one, and they're like, oh, that was easy. Okay, we'll try to catch 30 of them and see if it's still easy, because that ain't so simple. What you'll find is there's a lot of desert out there. Whenever you're fishing for these panfish, most of the trees, most of the area around, there's nothing there. It's because they're a schooling fish that it's difficult to find them. They get so concentrated, and they're all together, but they're only all together in one spot. You have to be able to find that spot, and that's not always easy. So you got to know the depth they're holding in, kind of pick up on some kind of pattern they're doing so that you can search an area effectively. And so if you wanted to, you could come back here and you could do that. You could go back here and look for panfish all along this back shore. I think this is a good spot back here for that. Out in this area is where I would say is probably your better lake trout area. And then striped bass, they're just going to be where they're going to be. They'll be anywhere in here. They could even be out here just cruising the open. Sometimes it just don't make sense. But yeah, it's a good area. I like fishing this area too. I jig here in front of 4. This is mile marker 4. I jig over in this area for Lakers. I like that area. It's pretty good. There's some trees right up here on the top of this bluff. And this is a pretty good bluff. You can see that it's about 70 feet up here. And then down here in the main channel, it's about 140 feet. So it drops pretty fast right there. It's kind of a bluff. And there's some trees in here. And I like to use my black lure with the tube on it. And I drop that down right above the tree. And I just jig it a little bit. And then wham, grab them up. Take them Lakers by surprise. They never see it coming. Good evening, Rick. I think I already said good evening, huh? Flashback. Matt says, can we look at mile 14? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cruising down the lake here. Beer Barrel Bay. That's mile marker 10. Cruising up the James Creek area. Cruising to the Great Trough Creek. Why is trough spelled like that? That is Trough Creek right there. So what should we talk about in Trough Creek? What are you guys interested in? If you guys were to go to Trough Creek, what fish species would you be targeting? Carp? I think my friend Josh is I'm not sure he can be on the live stream, but he'll probably catch up to this later. So that's why he's asked if I can talk about carp. So what do you think, Matt? If you were to go back to mile marker 14 and look around, what would you look for? John says walleye. I think that's not a bad idea. I think Trough Creek is well known to be a walleye spot. I don't know if it's the best spot on the lake or anything, but I do know that that's something that people think of. I think it's I think Trough Creek gets that. Okay, we'll talk about walleye. I think Trough Creek gets kind of get pinned with the walleye idea because there was a write-up many years ago with some guys who went down with a net just poaching, and they were throwing a cast net and pulling up spawning walleye, and they got hammered for it. They got in a lot of trouble over that. And I think that paper blew up and people kind of paid attention about it. And I think it became a walleye spot. This is what I'll tell you about Lake Raystown. The walleye that I've caught, almost all of them were incidental catches. Means I was out fishing for striped bass and I just caught a walleye by accident, which is happenstance. For the most part, walleye are difficult to target when you go out there. You have to know what you're doing with walleye to be able to effectively target them. And so it's a little bit hit or miss. You could spend an entire night there fishing, and I did say night for a reason. That's when they're most active. You could spend a whole night there with you and your buddy on a bass boat, casting the bank just like you would in a bass tournament. One guy in the front, one guy in the back, just hammering the bank, jumping from spot to spot that you believe is good for walleye. And if you guys go home at the end of the night with 4, you had a great night of walleye fishing. That's Lake Raystown because they are difficult to target. Most of the time they're staying down deep into timbers, and I don't know if you know this, but at Raystown Lake, it's almost like there's a mat of old wood on the bottom down there, and you get logs that are just kind of stacked up over top each other, and these fish get underneath those logs. The walleye are laid up under there super tight, down in the nooks and crannies of trees and fallen logs and stuff. You cannot get a hook down there without getting snagged. You probably won't mark too many walleye because all your electronics see, if that's the walleye, what the electronics see is the log that's sitting on top of it. You know, they have the log up here, and it never sees the walleye that's underneath it. It just sees the log on top. The tree, the electronics sees the tree, doesn't see the fish. So targeting walleye can be tough. That being said, you can do it. You can assume a little bit about the pattern, and you can go work an area, and with a little bit of luck, they come out of there and they take your line, and you can fight them out of the trees. So let's go up to Trough Creek and let's talk a little bit about walleye. So let's keep the basic in mind now. Current. Current is very important. If they're spawning walleye, what they're looking for is rocky shoals so they can drop their eggs down in, but those rocky shoals have to be agitated by current, so they need current. That's why Trough Creek is a good spot. And all right, there you go. It kind of popped back on. I've been doing the live stream using my my computer, and I'm asking a lot of it. So if it drops off at all, I'll just I'll boot it back up and we'll finish the stream. But if it drops off, that's what it is. I closed a couple windows out. So with walleye, there's 2 things that jump out to me when I think walleye fishing. One is current, because walleye need current to be able to spawn, especially. They drop their eggs down into rock shoals and just boulders and stuff like that, but they need the water coming over at the current to agitate it, kind of keep them oxygenated. I watched this cool video the other day on YouTube, and I think it was called why it sucks to be born as a walleye. If you guys haven't seen that, you got to search it up. I'm not gonna link it or anything, but search that one up. It's funny to watch, and you kind of get the life cycle of a walleye, and it's brutal. So here you got the walleye that come up here. They want to spawn in a current, and of course Trough Creek's got a good current right out through here. If you can find a place along this main channel that's holding like boulders and rocks and stuff like that, it's a good chance that's where they're going to hold up to be able to drop eggs and to spawn. They're not going to stay there forever, but that's where they would go to spawn. You want to avoid those during the spawn because we of course want walleye to go through their life cycle. But what's cool about Trough Creek is on both sides, I keep coming up, it's in one of those trends, is the tight topo lines here. On both sides, it gets super, super tight all along here. So that's classic walleye fish-in territory. The walleye like to hunt up on the flats and then come back and then drop off of those little ledges and just kind of stay there during their inactive stage. It's a little darker. The temperature of the water is usually more comfortable for them. And then late at night, they'll come up and they'll go out on the flats and start eating all the yellow perch and shad and stuff, whatever they can get their hands on. But ultimately, those sharp drop-offs are really good. You can find along the bottoms of those drops. You search through there with your electronics and see what you can see. If you see some marks, just cast on them. You can decide if it's a walleye or something else after you got it in the net. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to catch one to know. This flat right up here is also a good spot to go back to striper fishing. So it's like a flat. Again, I would tell you to run your baits shallow because there are trees and such up here you could get caught in. Just be careful. I've caught a striper off the point here as well as a lake trout right in there. Almost the same spot. So this is a good area to fish for a lot of fish. I tell you, not just Trough Creek, but let's step away from Trough Creek. You can go right out here to the main channel right here, and you can see the same ledgy drop off. You see it all along here. The difference is the depth. You see how much it drops off and now it turns from like 70 feet or something down to 100. Walleye typically won't go that deep, so they won't use that drop off as much. Over here, with this drop off, they're only dropping down to 50 and 60 feet. That's kind of the sweet spot for drop offs for walleye. But you'll see it's kind of like that all the way along here. So that's good fishing. If you come out here on the other side, say back by Nancy's, this whole edge over here that's real tight, it's really similar to that for walleye. Over on this side, it gets a little deep here, but look here in this area. We'll zoom in a little bit. This, again, looks just about right, especially up around here. This area here looks good for walleye. So let's say you and your buddy are going out for walleye. And first of all, you're going to put your boat in the water about 9 p.m. And you're going to tie up some rapalas or some crankbaits, some square bills if you want, whatever you think's going to work so you can cast and crank all night long. And then you're going to tie a second rod up that has something that's like a slow presentation or even a live bait. The classic lure to use for walleye is a jig head and a little minnow hooked on the tail of it, hooked onto it, hooked by the face, one of the jigs. So it's just a jig head tipped with a minnow. The reason I'm going to tell you to take at least those two is because you're going to cast and crank for 8 hours and you're going to be exhausted. So you cast and crank for about 30 minutes, then you pick up your spinning rod and you cast it out there and you just move it really slow, just kind of dragging it on the bottom or hopping it. But you're going to work these areas that you think hold walleye, and you're going to work them with different patterns, different presentations until you figure out what they want. And you have to give the fish what the fish wants. This is a hard one for bass guys, I think, especially because they have that lure that just produces for them, and they're going to use that lure. Let the fish, drop all that ego stuff and let the fish talk to you. Let the fish convince you that that's what he wants. feel like I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you guys. Do you have any questions about anything I've said so far? I have a few more ideas with walleye before I move on, but I feel like I've thrown a lot of stuff at you. Any other questions before I just move on? Yeah, and I think I did talk, Matt, I think I did talk about the striped bass on the north side there. Let's bring that up real quick. We'll look at it. Back over to Trough Creek here. The north side, this flat right here that I mentioned. Yeah, you can work through there. Just keep your baits high. So in this section, I'm going to tell you guys, don't use any weight behind your boards, or if you do, just let out a short leader. Don't let them go deeper than 5 feet. Keep your baits really high in the column. When you're pulling these flats, you just want to probably drive right along the blue here, so right along 30 foot, and you're just going to go along the edge. Now, I'll warn you, when you guys are doing this, especially like in places like back here in Trough Creek and stuff, you're going to catch non-targets. You're going to catch your large and small mouth. You're going to catch catfish. You're going to catch the white perch. That doesn't mean striper aren't there. So if you're there and you're catching and you're getting all these non-targets and stuff, don't consider that a loss. Don't think like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. You have to kind of just deal with that until the striper finds it. When I used to trap, we used to say with fox trapping, sometimes you have to catch the raccoon first so that you can get to the fox. Because the raccoons, they'll get into all your traps, you know. But as soon as you caught them all, now it's the fox that'll come in and you'll catch the fox. And then after you catch all the fox, then you'll get the coyote. So it's just kind of like a thing. You're out there looking for the fox, but you got to get past the raccoons. So just deal with the incidental catches as you're moving along here. Keep your baits shallow as you can to keep you out of trouble. And then you can also come down here and work. There's a good flat over here. Good flat here. Getting down into 18 and 19. There's a nice flat on this bend here. Long flat here. It just keeps going. The further you go down this lake, there's more and more places to fish. The log jam back here is good. This little bay is good. This flat out here in front of the marina. So the further you go, the more places there are. But the lake is loaded. I would say it's loaded, but I'll tell you, the lake has striper everywhere. You have to choose a spot that you can work that day. Because I just scrolled down that map. There's no way you can fish all that in one day. Not effectively. I mean, you can go hit it and then run, hit it and then run. But how effective did you actually fish it? So take your time, work those areas, come back and work them again if you can. But that's Trough Creek right there. That's a little bit about walleye, a little bit touching on striper. It is kind of a trap, guys, to get into the mindset too. So let me caution you guys just a little bit. If you're going to Raystown Lake and you're targeting, we'll say the 3 big ones, walleye, striped bass, lake trout. If those are your 3 fish that you will only target when you go to Raystown, you're going to have frustrating days on the water. Each one of those has a learning curve a mile long. You're going to beat your head against a brick wall for years, guys. I'm telling you, the guys who have this figured out, it took them a long, long time to figure it out. It's a difficult process to stick with because it's so arduous. So, that's the first thing, is it's a long process. The second thing is, even if you know perfectly how to target those species, like I consider myself to be pretty proficient with lake trout. Even though I'm pretty proficient with lake trout, I still need more than 1 day on the water. Multiple days, 2 is good. I like to have 3 days on the water in a row before I take a charter out. So a guy who targets lake trout, I feel pretty good about it. I always feel like I'm on it. You know, I'm learning something and I'm about to make something happen. When I'm on the water, I'm moving closer and closer to that goal, and I'm confident about that. I still want 3 days on the water in a row before I take one of you guys out. I know a lot of people who fish this lake. The idea of them having 3 days in a row on the water is a pipe dream. They just can't get the time off of work. So yes, we can talk about walleye, we can talk about striped bass, and we can talk about lake trout, but I'm going to always encourage you guys to never forget about the humble panfish. Go out and catch some yellow perch, white perch, crappie, your bluegill species. These are fun species that get you catching, and there's always bass. So keep a couple bass rods in the boat too. And you're in a good area to do it. And you have good company too, because we're all bass fishermen. Everybody out here. Hey Phil, good evening. You're not late, you're right on time. But everybody out here holding a fishing rod, we are all bass fishermen. So let's not pick on the bass fishermen anymore, because you're one of them. Everybody that fishes is a bass fisherman. If it weren't for the bass, I don't know if there'd be any fishermen. Can you imagine if you had never caught a fish before and somebody said, all right, go figure out how to catch lake trout. You'd fish for 6 years without catching a fish. Who would do that? If it weren't for bass, we wouldn't be fishermen. Even more than that, the bluegill. I should do an entire stream on the bluegill. I'll share a story with you. I used to, so at Raystown Lake, you're not allowed to wild camp. That is where you just pull up on the bank and throw up a tent wherever, right? So that's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. You can only camp in designated camping areas. Do not go and wild camp. So back in the day when I used to go wild camping, I got caught, I got fined, and I've never done it again. So I'm not encouraging this. I went to the lake sometimes. I was a young man, and I was so unprepared. Had my John boat, and I would run out there, and I couldn't afford to pay for a campsite, but I would have 1 or 2 fishing rods, and I'd have some shiners, and a couple, jerk baits and stuff. And I would go out on my John boat, and I would just beat that lake up. But I would be putting my boat in the water at 6 o'clock p.m. on Friday evening, and I wouldn't have any provisions on the boat with me. I wouldn't have food. I might have water, but I wouldn't have any food, and I'd be putting my boat on the water at 6 p.m. I was so unprepared, so irresponsible. And what I would do is, I remember I was out there fishing, and I'll even show you the cove. I'll show you the cove where this all went down. I'm reliving something right now. So there's 7 points. Where am I? I am. Let me think here for a second. Where am I going? Where was it? I think it's right here. Yeah, this is it here. All right, I had to kind of remember it. So this is like mile marker 12, this point right here. And I remember I'm up here with my John boat, and I'm fishing this little cove back here. You guys probably all know this cove too. It's opposite of 12. This is 12 right here. By the way, right where my cursor was, this is where I trolled my first ever lake trout. I was coming across that point. I was pulling an alewife, and I had it weighted down and diving with one of Offshore Tackle's tadpoles. You remember those? I love those things. But anyways, this cove right here. I'm casting this cove frantically with a jerkbait, and I'm cracking it, and boom, I load up, and it's going to be a bass, right? And I bring this thing in, and it's a beautiful bass. It's like I didn't weigh it. I don't know the measurement, but in my memory, it was like a 3-pound bass, maybe a 3.5-pound bass. So a good fish for a young man fishing out there, and I'm cracking this thing, starving. You know where this is going. I was starving out there. I got out there, and I caught this thing, and I remember sitting there holding this bass. It was a largemouth, right? A largemouth. You'd think it'd be a smallmouth. But I'm holding this largemouth bass, and I'm looking at him, and I'm putting him in the water, and then I'm picking him up, and I'm looking at him. And we had a talk. I was like, buddy, I'm hungry. And I remember when I put that fish in the water and I let his tail go and he swam off, I stood up and I remember I was satisfied that I let him go, but boy, that was a hard decision. I think I regretted it immediately because I put all my tackle away, threw my stuff down, and I jetted off to my my wild camp that I shouldn't have been at. And what I did that night is I took my rod. This is all coming back around to the humble bluegill. Took my rod, put the smallest bait, then a little spinner that I had on, and I was at the shoreline, just casting the shoreline, catching bluegill. And I caught like 3 or 4 of them, filleted them up, made a little fire, cooked them up. That was my supper. That was my supper. I survived off of bluegill that night, and I was happy to do it. I was satisfied. Fish is incredibly good food, and I gave up that bass, put him back, but then I went and I harvested some bluegill. It's the Survivor Man's food. Remember Survivor Man? Let's jump back onto this map. Where were we going? I got off course there, but that bass lived to tell his tale. All right, striped bass. Thoughts on spring striper spawn? I don't really have any thoughts on it. No trophy. So I think striper act away because it is spawn season, but no, there's no reproducing striper at Raystown Lake. Don't let anybody tell you differently. I believe they do try to spawn. They lay eggs. They do all that stuff. The problem is the conditions that are needed don't exist. There's a few small spots that it might be possible if they were to spawn there, but I'm telling you, those areas where it's possible, they're just inundated with all the predatorial species. Like everybody knows at Raystown Lake, we have a prolific population of white bass and white perch. They go after spawn eggs like it's their job. So they are a big reason we struggle with fingerlings, and whenever we put fingerlings in of striper, that's like a great meal for all those predatorial small predatorial fish. They love to eat up our striped bass fingerlings. That's why I am a catch and harvest enthusiast when it comes to white perch. Catch those up, take them home. It's great meat, great eating, and they kill our striper fingerlings, and we don't want that. We want our striper, not our white perch. So keep the white perch, eat them up. They're good eating. I guess that's all my thoughts are on the spring striper spawn. I think so. All right, good, man. Good evening, guys. Really appreciate everybody being here and showing some support for the channel. I want to remind you that below this video, there are affiliate links to every rod, to the rods and reels that I use, as well as the line and everything. So you guys can track that down, and Amazon sends me a little commission check. And I don't know if you guys were here earlier, but I actually just got my commission check from them for this month, and it was $24. So I know it's not much, but buddy, I tell you what, I appreciate it. So thank you. Affiliate links are down below. I did want to point out one specific affiliate link for you. So I actually want to go to, let's bring up the video we're actually watching. And I'm hoping I don't get the feedback. I did this the other day, and I got like a feedback loop kind of thing going on. But right here's the live video you guys are watching right now. Feedback loop kind of thing going on. But right here. Yep, there it is. So it might feedback just a little bit there. I'm going to pause that just so it's not being goofy. And I think we're okay. I'm not getting the feedback loop. But if you scroll down to the About section underneath this link here, I went ice fishing just yesterday, or 2 days ago, and I was really bothered that I didn't have heated gloves. So I started looking into this, and I started digging into it, and I found a pair that I liked, and I was just going to buy them, but then I realized that that company that makes them, they actually have an affiliate program. This is something I do whenever I find a product I like. I check to see if they're an affiliate. And what that does is if I do all the paperwork and stuff with them, they give me a discount code, and then I can share it with you guys. I haven't done a whole lot of that, but I am going to start. But I want to show you, it's right here in the very top. I kept it right at the very top of the description here, just down below, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that would like to get a good pair of heated gloves. So right here it is. They are called Rock Bros. It's actually a bicycle equipment company, and they sell heated clothing, so the winter ride and such. But if you go to their checkout, you use this code here. It's just Rydes, R-Y-D-E-S. So click on the link. It'll take you to the heated gloves. You can read up on them, and if you guys want to check them out, these are the ones that I'm suggesting. They're $73 without the coupon. With the link, the code, the discount code, Rydes, they're like 65 bucks. It's a really good discount on them, and they're really good gloves. So take a minute, check them out for me. And if I sell enough of them, they'll send me some money. I don't make much money off of them, but it's good to share what I'm doing with you guys. And that's just another way you can support me. If you were looking for heated gloves, that's where I'm going to tell you to go. So appreciate that. All right, right on. So I do want to talk a little bit about Ice Out Lakers. Yesterday during the live stream, we were just kind of chatting just for fun. If you didn't watch yesterday's live stream, it was pretty low key. I didn't have an itinerary, so I just came on and just kind of shot the breeze. And we do that a little bit with this, but I have an itinerary. I have notes. I'm sticking to the program. Yesterday I was just off the cuff, and it turned into just a lot of conversation, which was cool. But we came up with this idea, and I want to share it with you guys because it's just starting. We haven't made any plans or anything. I'm just bringing this idea to you guys. So I'd like some feedback on this because you might have some experience that I don't have. Lake trout, right when the ice melts off, there's a whole thing called Ice Out Lake Trout. Ice Out Lake Trout. So the lake trout are up through the column when that ice comes off because it's cool water, and they can go all through the column. So they get real dispersed through the column, and you can literally go to the shoreline and cast for them and catch them. So it's bank angling for lake trout just after ice out. The reason I wanted to talk to you guys about this is today's date is January 26th, and I checked my old dock updates from last year, and on February 5th, that's like so today's the 26th, it's like a week out. So 1 week out from today is February 5th, and I said on that dock update, and I'm standing at Snyder's Run, and there's boats going in and out, and I said, the ice is gone, guys. It's not coming back. Like, the weather patterns were changing to where that ice was not going to come back, and it never did. So as of February 5th, we were in ice out conditions. So we could have gone and cast the bank for lake trout February 5th last year. The reason I'm pointing that out is because it's right in front of us. It could sneak up on us really quick. Do I think the ice is going to be gone by February 5th this year? No, I do not. However, the potential is there that it could sneak up on us very fast. So I'll show you what I'm thinking with the Ice Out Lake Trout. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit here. This is Beer Barrel Bay here, and this is the 7 Points Marina. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. What I'm thinking for Ice Out Lake Trout, casting the bank, is here in the access area. Most people know that this is the beach right here. So this is the swimming area at 7 Points. So like over here's the dock. Where is the dock over here? I think it's a weird spot for it to be out here in the middle of the ground. I don't think that's it. This is the marina, but I think the dock is somewhere like right in here. I think this is it. I think that little edge is supposed to be representing the dock where we dunk our boats right there. So this is just down from it, past the marina, and around this bend. The swimming area is back here. Basically, you pull into the swimming area before you get up to the dock. This beach, though, is the area that I'm thinking we would meet up for this bank angling meetup. And I'm calling it that very specifically for a reason. I don't want to make a bank angling event out of this the first year I do it. I don't do that the first year because it might not work. It might be a complete bust. It might be a disaster and not be any fun. Might not be a single fish caught. That being said, we can try. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really watch the ice conditions out here, and I'm going to check on this area, make sure it's good. But it's coming up fast, and I'll put it in the dock update, so keep an ear out, keep an eye out for it. And I'm going to talk about this ice out lake trout bank angling meetup. And there's no cost to it or anything. We're just going to get together and fish, and we're going to try. We're going to see what comes of it. I think this area is a good spot because we can fish, of course, the beach area right here. But you can also walk down around this edge and fish this steeper spot. See how it's kind of like it's got a tighter drop off, so it gets deep. It's down to about 30 feet. I think you can probably cast it out and still be. It's not going to be deeper than 30 feet, but I think that the lake trout will patrol that point. It's got a good little jut in it. It juts out a little bit. And the other thing is the water's actually drawn down right now, so we got drought conditions. Water's low. You'll be able to walk this shoreline a little bit. So water's down. Ice comes off, you can walk out on the shoreline and you can cast and get out a little deeper than you normally would be able to. I'm bringing this up because I think the more I think about it, the conditions are pretty good to be able to cast the banks for lake trout this year. And so I want to try that, and if you guys want to be a part of that, I'll be talking about it in the dock updates, but it's just going to be a meetup. It's just going to be some guys getting together and trying this. So who's in? This is your chance to participate in the chat. Who likes this idea? Who wants to go try it out? Who wants to get together for a meetup and give it a shot? Who wants to cast the bank? We'll be bring your spinning reel, cast some rooster tails or some spoons, some Mep spinners, some blue fox. I'm telling you guys this because you want to get rigged for it now. A lot of guys don't have rooster tails, and we only pull spoons if we troll for them. So we don't really rig for casting for lake trout. So who's in? Who wants to come and be a part of it? I see you guys cranking up through the comments. Awesome. Awesome. So there's interest. It's not just me, right? This sounds like a cool thing to give a shot. I think we should do it. So pay attention to the dock updates. We're going to try and get together and do this. It's just going to be like a meetup, and I'm going to make sure the gates are open so that we can actually walk down to the beach area and stuff. And if it's not, we'll find another spot. But this place, I think, is just, I started talking about this area, and I think it's a good idea. Who was it that suggested this? It was yesterday in the live, wasn't it? Who was it that told me about it yesterday? Was it Doug? I think it was Doug. Doug, you still in the chat? I think Doug brought it up, and then he said he can't come. I said I'd name the fish after him. Marcus, I didn't know you were there, buddy. Good evening. It's good to see you. Yeah, it sounds like a load of fun. I think it was a great idea that I believe Doug brought it up. Really looking forward to it. But as of February 5th last year, the ice was off the water. And that's it's like a week away from today. It's amazing. I know we have a lot of snow and a lot of cold pushing through right now, and that'll kind of mess us up. It's got us thinking that we got something going on that we might not. The cold weather, the ice condition, like the iced over water at Raystown, it comes and goes so fast. I call it a flash freeze season, or a flash ice fishing season, because it comes and goes so quick. I'm glad to have a couple friends who are ice fishing so that I can go ice fishing, and I did have a blast, guys. I had a really good time, and I'm glad that I have friends that do that, because it's a lot to put in. I can't justify it for the charter, you know what I mean? But it's pretty exciting to be able to go out and do that. Awesome. We're going to do it. We're going to make it a thing. Give me 1 second. I got tea boiling on the stove. I want to get a cup of tea. I'll be right back. We got chamomile tea. It's one of the great pleasures in life, guys. Tea. When I was in the military, I was in Germany, and I had a buddy over there. His name was Peter, German guy, and he was a tea fanatic, man. His cupboards were just lined end to end with tea. He was crazy about it. But he got me interested in it. All the different ways you can make tea. It's phenomenal. Tea is phenomenon in other countries. Here in America, I think we kind of dropped the ball on that. That and bakeries. Why don't we have bakeries, man? One of the best things ever. Walking up and down the street, and you got bakeries on every corner. Fresh bread and donuts. Gosh. I had a good visit. So, guys, the live stream's has just about run its course. If you have any questions, now's a great time to shoot them at me. Is there anything on the lake you guys want to look at in parting? Do you have anything you want to kind of bring up? Anything at all? Anything you're thinking of? Let me know what's going on. While you're putting that thought together for me, I will remind folks that I have updated my stuff on Facebook. And what I'm talking about is all these little links here. I had some of these were broken. They didn't work. So if you want to send a gift, book a charter, Venmo, and of course videos on YouTube, I have all those links up and working. So you guys are welcome to shoot me a message if you want to go on a fishing trip. And then of course, if you want to go to randallrydes.com, you can look up everything Randall Rydes by going to randallrydes.com. Fishing charters, and I know it's a ways out, but there's Lake Erie charters. That's going to be the month of July. I'll be up at Lake Erie. And I'm repairing these reels now, so if you guys need help with that, just reach out. I got jig and lures made up. The Raystown Rendezvous is April 10th. Make sure you guys reserve or do a registration rather for that. This is a voluntary registration. It's not required. Most importantly, get there. But I'd appreciate if you do a registration. That helps out with the expenses. And I have 4 events scheduled for this year. That's the first one. The second one is the bank angling event. And then paddling and bassing in June. And then fishing and chilling way out in November. And we'll be right back at the same location as the Raystown Rendezvous. I'm going to use that location so that it doesn't change, so that it's not confusing for people. You can camp there. We have there's a campfire ring. There's a pavilion if it's nice enough. We can be outside. And if it's not fair weather, there's actually a building where we can go inside. I've already started putting a few folks together for that. We're going to have some speakers, and it's going to be very kid-friendly. I'll leave more itinerary and details as they develop, but I need to verify some things, so I don't want to talk about them out of turn. But let me just say that I think that it's probably going to be the biggest event that I'm a part of the year. So I think this is it's like hitting all the chords, you know. It's like it's hitting all the right notes. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully you can make that. It is linked below. Follow the link. So thank you. Yeah, you're still here. Right on, Doug. Appreciate it. Yeah, I know you can't walk that far. I understand. Yeah, I understand. I'm thinking with the bank angling, every year I'm going to do a bank angling event, but I want to change the location. I'm thinking next year I'm going to do it at H And H is great because it's such, even if you have limited mobility, you can get, it's really good for access. And I think at H, I can get you on to yellow perch, crappie, bass, catfish, and the odd striper from time to time. But I think the striper is kind of a stretch. Not sure, though. But yellow perch and crappie, a couple bass, a couple catfish. I think we have a fishing trip. So I'm thinking H might work out. We might do that for next year. And even if you have limited mobility, well, Doug, I'll help you get down there. I'll be around. I'll get you down there. Even if we got to put you in a chair, I'd bring you down there. Do you use a chair, or is it just like you got a cane or a walker or something like that? My father-in-law, he has a cane, so he can get around fine, but it just takes him, 20 minutes to go 100 feet, That's good stuff. I ran out of local honey, though. I would have liked to put some honey in that. That's all right. Okay, very good. All right. Yeah, I see it on my end, Buck. It looks good. I think we're okay. I had a glitch earlier, but I'm not even sure you guys noticed. It was just on my end probably there. But my computer kind of shut down. Let's look at H together. What do you say? We were talking about H. Let's look at it. I'm going to zoom out. There's James Creek. And H is real easy to find because it's right near James Creek. Apparently it's out here in the middle of the the populace. It's out here. That's great. We got it out here. This is the actual ramp for it. I don't know why H is out there. We talked about H yesterday a little bit too. But what I would be talking about for the bank angling event is there's a boardwalk that comes out along here. And the pond, this is what's called the pond back here, holds a lot of fish species. But you can catch yellow perch and crappie, bass. Marcus will tell you can catch muskie back there too. And then, of course, off this side, this would be more of your catfish and bass. And I'll tell you, down here at the ramp itself, there's like a picnic table set up. This is a handicap accessible fishing pier, little stage, if you will, set up above the water. I think this area right here is good for yellow perch. So you can catch yellow perch from that little stand there. Actually, this whole bank back here, I think, is really good for yellow perch. And if you're on a boat, you come back in this corner, this whole pit, it's really good for yellow perch. Good area for bait as well. But that's what I'm thinking. That'll probably be next year. I think I'm going to do H next year. I've never done a bank angling event over at H. That would be a good one. All right, awesome. Well, with that, I think I'm going to close down the stream. Be sure to follow one of my affiliate links before you go to Amazon and do any shopping. And that, it doesn't matter if you buy the item that I told you about in the link. If you go to Amazon from one of my links and then buy a jar of peanut butter, I'll still get a commission on the jar of peanut butter. It's just the link got you there. So if you guys do that, I'd appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps support me. So thank you. You guys are doing that already. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I am closing my notebook. That is the end of the stream, guys. Go check out the dock update. Well, it's not a dock update. It was the ice fishing video that I just released. Just a short one. It was just for fun. And is there anything else to tell you about? I'm going to let it go with that. I've yammered on for long enough. So thank you, guys. Go get dug out. Stay warm. Don't hurt yourself digging all that snow up. And just be good to yourself, okay? That's it, guys. Have a good night. Much love. Much respect.